before we go into looking at what Scott Adams said itself, what do you think about the representation of that poll? Because we had this discussion in the Discord server, and Fred was basically saying, in the real sense, that the poll might actually reflect how African Americans feel about white people. And Scott Adams had a discussion with Hotep Jesus, who is a black man as well, and he re-echoed that same sentiment that it's that the poll is probably accurate of how black people feel about white people. So to me, if I want to take the words of those two black men and say they are right, two things. One, I see a problem. The second one, I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem in the sense that it might just be having negative perceptions about the other race. Now, people hold negative perceptions about groups all the time.
Right.
But most of the time, they don't act on it, right? They don't act on those negative perceptions. They just have it, you know. And if you were to do a poll, I am probably thinking that there is a commiserate amount of white people who have similar feelings about black people, as in negative opinions about black people, but they don't do anything about it. They don't act on it. Those things are just there. But on the other hand, if it is actually really true that half of black people feel that type of way about white people, then it's a perfectly reasonable proposition to say, well, get away from people like that. Get away from people who don't think it's okay for you to be who you are. I think that's a perfectly reasonable proposition. However, where I take a lot of issues with Adam's conclusion that he drew from that was that there was a lot of charity taken out of that conversation. I mean, the vast majority of black people, 53%, said it's okay to be white, at least from this poll, right? So that was totally ignored. The vast minority, 26%, said it's not okay to be white. And given America's racial history, I was expecting that number to actually even be higher. And then 1% said they were not sure, meaning probably they don't understand the question. What does it even mean to say it's okay to be white? No, instead of him to separate all that, he took that I am not sure category and put it in the category of those who says it's not okay to be white.
Right.
And based on that, drew his conclusion and gave that statement that he made. I can just see that there was a lot of non-charity there. Because if you want to look at it on a factual basis, actually, it's 26% that said it's not okay to be white. And you have to assume that the other 21%, if they understood the question better, would actually say it's okay to be white. But for you to just lump them with a group that says it's not okay to be white, then I see something fishy there.
You're absolutely correct. So just so people understand, there were 5 options that people could choose: strongly agree, agree, disagree, strongly disagree, not sure. So there are 5 options that people chose. Like you said, he specifically chose to lump in the neutral, which is the not sure, and use that as a negative by saying 47% didn't say that they agree with it. So he turned the neutral into a negative just to make some sort of point, to make some sort of negative point. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he can go ahead and say all these things, and I think people are giving him good grace, let's just say, to explain why he said what he said. But the fact of the matter is, we've seen the reaction from it, because not everybody is going to understand what he's trying to do. It almost reminds me of, like, was it Andy Kaufman? He's like, nobody's sure if he's telling jokes or if he's serious. And when you're trying to have some sort of intellectual discussion by introducing the hyperbolic about something that is sensitive in our society, to me, I just think that you're either doing it the wrong way because you just want to be a rabble rouser, or you don't actually care that much. And, you know, even listen to him talk to Hotep Jesus, because I listened to a little bit of the interview. And I think it's, just so people understand, I think it's good to have these conversations with people, even if you disagree with them. Good to hear them out and hear what they actually mean. Now, granted, it could be fluff, you know, maybe in the moment is what they really meant, and then later on they're trying to fix what they're saying. But I think that his frustration with trying to do stuff with Black Lives Matter, trying to do stuff with these different organizations, and them not budging and then realizing something is wrong. I'm just going to be real blunt because I feel like I'm trying to be careful with my words and I'm trying to censor myself a little bit because I don't want to be hyperbolic. But I feel like when there are moments when someone who is not of your group, it could be any group, political group, racial group, whatever, but someone who's not of your group, you don't give them, you give them a short leash of good grace, right? And so I've seen this so many times where someone's like, I tried a couple times, and so it failed a couple times. So I'm going to make a determination that there's no point. These people are lost causes, nothing. And that's it. Dust their hands off and just kind of move on. And I don't know. I think there's something about that type of mentality, about seeing what you want to see, about feigning to do what you think is the right thing to do a couple times. I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about this entire thing. I've been talking about it a lot recently. And I have a lot of different feelings when it comes to this. So I don't want to steer it in a different direction than you want it to actually go.
Mm. So for me, when I first watched the video, his first response to that poll itself, he was like, really, this is an actual question that a poll is asking. So to me, initially it felt like, oh, maybe this guy was just trolling or something. But I think the more he got into the statement, into the analysis, it seemed as if he began to believe it, right? He began to, probably there were some subconscious things that he'd been feeling before that just started coming to the fore, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
later on he mentions that he's tired of these videos of black people meting out violence against white people. And as a member of any group, anybody is going, if you're a member of a group who you feel is being attacked, you're going to feel a certain type of way, right? I mean,
Right.
at the height of those times where they were just showing on the TV, cops killing black people, even though I was way back in Africa, I felt a type of way. I was really, 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 really mad.
Mm.
But those things can just be selecting for the worst, right? You have
Yeah.
not seen the vast majority of police interactions with people and how the outcomes are. And conservatives like to point that out. That there are millions of police interactions every year with people, and a very tiny minority of that result in shooting. So I'm asking myself, when you begin to see videos of black people beating on white people, do you extend that same charity? Do you sit down to reflective and say, wow, there are about 43 or so million black people in America, right? How many of these people are actually beating on white people? I mean, if 10% of them were doing something like that, that would be a national emergency, because there'll be so much of these incidents that you're just going to ask yourself, what the hell is going on, right? So
Right.
it's a selection bias. People are going to, because they are primed in a certain way. You've heard the narrative, yeah, there's been the anti-white rhetoric and all that. Yes. Even if you don't believe it, at a certain point in time, when you hear something over and over and over and over again, it begins to sip in. You begin to feel a certain type of way. So I can
Right.
understand on that ground why any white person might want to feel that way. But I don't think they were charitable enough. I don't think they looked at the facts of the matter enough before they came to that conclusion. So I think part of the motivations behind what Scott Adams said or what he did was that he actually felt that white people were, were being attacked, they were being harassed, anti-white rhetoric was coming to a head. And if you ask many of these white people, how many of these negative interactions have you had personally? They might not be able to tell you, but they might give you an example of someone who they feel it has happened to. So all these things are, I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's just manufactured chaos.